Welcome, aspiring data scientist. Today we will embark on a journey to unlock the power of pivot tables in our Excel training. And it's good for you to know that in as much as you must be very good when it comes to analyzing data as well as generating insightful reports, whether you are managing a multinational company or might be a local business, pivot tables will always be an important tool for you to be able to transform your raw data into insights. So before we delve into our Excel spreadsheet, what is the pivot table all about? You must know that pivot tables act as an interactive interface within Excel, which allows you to effortlessly summarize, analyze, and categorize your data. Summarizing, analyzing, and categorizing your data is key. And I'll be showing you how with a few clicks and drags, you will be able to transform a complex data into a well-organized data, whereby you'll be able to reveal hidden trends, patterns, and also valuable insights from it. So let's go to our Excel spreadsheet. So imagine you have a data set like this, which is in a tabular format, filled with what I will call data points. Data points. All of these are data points. So what pivot table does is that it allows you to pivot this table. What I mean is rotating your rows. These are your rows, and these are your columns. So rotating these rows, rotating these columns to create different perspective. So if we are having a data like this, different perspective can be to group data by product type, or maybe to group this data you have here by region, or to group this data you have here by price range, or any other relevant category. This is manipulation. And this kind of dynamic manipulation is what helps you to identify those patterns, insights, trends I was talking about, which here in this field, we refer to them as knowledge, because those are the knowledge you extract from your data. So it helps you identify them, and you get everything going very fine. So what are the benefits you will reap with your pivot tables? The first is in data summarization. Pivot tables automatically condense large data sets into concise summaries. And you'll find out that it will save you countless hours of doing manual calculations, maybe which you have been doing in the office or time when you work with Excel. Extracting or uncovering knowledge like trends, pattern discovery, insights. Pivot tables reveals hidden relationships and patterns within your data. It provides you with a deeper understanding of your business performance, might be customer behavior, or you want to look into market trends. With pivot table, that is a done deal. With pivot table, you can also enhance your reporting, okay? You can also enhance reporting, okay? Can also do that. So as I was saying, with pivot table, you can export your pivot table analysis into clear and compelling reports You can also complete your charts and graphs for effective communication and also make informed decisions. With your pivot tables, you also see how you can slice all of this data by various criteria. And of course, you know, criteria means conditions. And it's actually what makes working with data interesting. So with it, you'll be able to focus on specific regions, specific products, or maybe time periods also. But the first thing you have to do here is for you to create your pivot table. You create it. Once you have created it, you now look into the fields, the filters, because you must know this, that your pivot table too much are built on fields. So your data categories, and by data categories, I mean the product type, the region. Can also talk about, since we have here the column for discounts. Okay, so these are the fields. Actual price column is one of the fields. You know, here, when we talk about columns, the other name for columns is field, or what we call attributes. Then when we look at rows, we call rows observations or records. So you must know that your pivot tables are built on fields, columns, country field, date field, item field. These are the pillars in which pivot tables are built on. Now, you can arrange these fields, these columns, in rows. Recall when I talked about pivot, rotating your row to column, rotating your column to rows. So same way you can arrange these fields in rows, you can arrange them in columns, you can also arrange them in what we call filters. The reason for that is so you will be able to manipulate your data view. Another important functionality for your pivot table I would want you to take note of is what we call calculated fields. Calculated fields. And calculated fields happen to be a functionality that goes beyond basic summaries. Pivot tables allow you to create calculated fields. And there you'll see how we'll be using formulas, what we call custom formulas, that will help you unlock new insights from your data. So aspiring data enthusiasts, by the end of this training session, you will be equipped to confidently create and customize pivot tables in Excel. And also, by the end of this training session, you will also analyze your data efficiently to identify key trends and patterns, what I call knowledge. And you'll also be able to generate insightful reports that inform strategic decision making. What I want you to do is to pay attention and follow the procedures and approach. And of course, you know, in our training, I always state it out that here in this field of data science, approach is everything. So I want you to follow these approaches, practice, so you'll be able to leverage the power of pivot tables to become a data guru. So let's go. So right here before us, we have a spreadsheet, okay? And there are insights, knowledge we need to extract and also to uncover. So what we'll use is a pivot table because it is a tool for summarizing and analyzing data, especially when you're working with Excel. So I'll be showing you how you can use pivot table to perform calculations on your data. And your calculations performed on your data has to be done based on certain conditions. Conditions what we refer to as criteria. So I just want you to follow attentively, because most of the times when you go for an interview, whether it's on a data analyst role, a business analyst role, a business intelligence analyst role, or all that, okay, or even could be any other general position, maybe a secretary, an admin, a manager, and all of that, Excel is still needed in the course of your duty. Okay, so most of the times you have to be tested on Excel, and the pivot table happens to be one basic, one aspect whereby you need to showcase your skill as far as, having this knowledge here, working with Excel is concerned. So for instance, the data presented here, this data set, we know what data set means, a collection, okay? And it's made up of data points. I've talked about that. And another important information you need to also put into consideration is the fact that for a data like this, you don't necessarily need to perform a data profiling task, which has to go with EDA, okay, exploratory data analysis. The reason is because this data is already well organized, okay? And we can also see the metadata, which means the data set is already coming to us on situation one. For those of you who understand situation one, is because you are our students enrolled in our training program here in Miramore Consulting. So for others who don't understand situation one, you have to register for our training so you understand what we mean by situation one. Situation one is one of the first situations in which data comes. When we look at the data life cycle, we all know here, we're told in class that the data life cycle, the very first stage is the stage of data acquisition, that stage at which data comes, okay? And I told us that when data comes, in two situations. Situation one is what I will talk about. Situation one is just situation where data comes with a description about the data it contains. And here we have a description. There's a description called store, and it comes with all the data in that field or columns. There's a description called country, there's a description called salesperson, actual price, discount. So all of these are here. So what you now have to do is to go ahead, use your pivot table to perform calculations on this data based on certain conditions. For instance, we can talk about maybe you're given this data to help analyze sales per year. You can see the date column, sales per year is something you have to do, okay? Or maybe the client is telling you they want you to analyze this data for them to have, the kind of a summarized data analysis for sales per country or sales per store. So this might sound somehow easy, but trust me, there are a lot of works that actually needs to be done. For instance, I always tell us in class, for many data set given to you by dates, one of the things I expect you to do is to create a column called year. And there is already a function in Excel you can use to do that. You just have to right click, insert a new column, give it a title, year, that's metadata, then come over here and apply the formula for year, which is this, okay, equal to year. Then pick the dates where you have years, hit on your enter. It brings out a different format. And based on the principle of quality metadata, which we were told in class, you must ensure consistency and accuracy. Okay, for that reason, this needs to be changed. So what do you do? Since this data is stored in a cell, you have to format the cell. So to format the cell, I told us you have to right click, then come down, you see where we have format cells. Once you see format cells, you come over to general, and then you hit on OK, and you have your year extracted. Then to fill in for others, you hit what we call here in Miramore, the angry rabbit is below. So if I double click on the angry rabbit, you can see it vomits all the year for me. So I can now be able to say, okay, I want to analyze these sales per year. Okay, but you can see the steps we have gone through. Instead of going through these steps, since you're using your pivot table, you don't need to do this. You only do this when we look into the aspect of what we call analysis mapping, where you now integrate other functions, trying to build a model like the sum ifs and all of that just to extract. But all those things are waste of time. Your pivot table does the job for you, which is always the end result of your analysis here using Excel. And that's part of what I want to show you in our class today, because I've talked about the benefits of what you will derive. And if you can see here, we just made use of formulas to be able to, have a new field sorted out for our year, okay? But when you're using your pivot table, there is no need for you to ever come here to say you want to use formulas in order to perform calculations. No, you don't have to do that, okay? And I told us that you can also perform other complex calculations in a very simple way. Recall when we used the quick analysis gallery to create our tables, that was a simple way to actually do that. And that's actually what we do here. But recall, I said whatever we are doing here has to be built based on fields because the pivot table is built based on fields. So I'll be putting you through on many things you'll be looking at. I'll be showing you how to create a pivot table, how to change the way values are calculated on your pivot table because that's your data points are calculated. I'll also show you what we call data segmentation. Okay, it's very important for you to know how to segment data, and I'll also be putting you through on how to perform complex calculations on the same column in your pivot table. And I'll also put you through on how, because there's difference between creating your pivot table and designing your pivot table. Creating here and designing is different. So after you've created your pivot table, you're still expected to design it. So I will show you how you can design your pivot table. Okay, I will show you how to also format your pivot table. I will show you how to do that. And recall, I was saying this that that when we look at the life cycle, after data have come, you now have to prepare the data also. So that is also not exempted yet because when we started here, we did not actually clean this data. But that doesn't mean you cannot clean it with pivot table. A lot of persons do not know this. So you can also use pivot table to clean your data. It means to handle certain errors that goes against the criteria we know, quality criteria and all of that, okay, criteria of uniformity and all of that. And those criteria goes in line with missing values, errors, and all of those, and those are things your pivot table can also be used to also do for you. So we'll be looking at that. We'll also look into how to filter your pivot table. I'll also show you how to sort values in your pivot table. I'll also show you how you can update data in your pivot table and also refresh it. There are times where you'll be working in the office, a new data will be sent to you to add up. Take, for example, if this happened to be data for the month of May and something else is sent to you, okay? Now you have to update it. Do you understand? So when it's given to you, one thing is to update, another is to refresh. If you don't refresh, it's not going to appear. So it's something I'll also put you through. How do you add new data in your data, and you're using your pivot table, and how do you also, refresh it? I'll show you how to do this. I'll also show you grouping data here in pivot table, and also, grouping data is in two. The one you are taught in class is when you have a complex data set, which is a collection of what you want to work. I've told us to always apply the focus criteria. Focus criteria means focus on that field, that data point, column that is relevant in your what you are actually doing, your task or your assignment. Okay, you don't necessarily need all of this. And I told us to always utilize this very group here, we call the outline group, to be able to do that. So if, for example, in my tax, I am not interested in country to year, all I have to do is to come here, highlight country to year, then I come to the data tab, then I locate my outline group. I clicked on group. So if I'm clicking on this option called group, you can see that there is a collapse button at the top before my formula bar. So all I have to do is to hit on that collapse button and it takes away those very information. And I told us this is necessary when you are handling tasks that has to do with project management, engineering related tasks. Their data is always bulky and large, because of several aspects, activities that are into it. So if you want to now expand, you can now expand, So, and if you want to take this away, you have to highlight it. Then you come over back to your outline and you come to your group and you click on what? On group. Then it's going to ungroup that. And all of this goes in line with the outline, which I've taught us is important when we look at the different levels of detail for data, which I told us we have different levels. Just as we have different levels of data for, especially, first what we call the raw level data, and just like that. So same way, look in here too, we have different detailed level, which are all very important. So we'll be looking at that and also look into the calculated fields, which I told you it's useful here when you are also working here, because I told us that it helps you to be able to, go out beyond basic summaries here. It allows you to unlock new insight from your data rather than, stressing yourself up with certain things you shouldn't have been doing. So I will show you how to do that. I'll also show you how to group data here using pivot table, like I said. I'll also show you how to create pivot charts. Okay, pivot charts is very important. So you know how to visualize. That's the visual aspect, visual analytics. Yeah. I also show you how to add what we call slicers and timelines to your pivot table. It's things that are also very important. And of course, after this, you are now eligible to attempt this question assignment, which is mandatory for every Miramore student to have completed this section in our Excel training to attend, where you are a data analyst at Miramore Consulting, working with a client who is the proud owner of a multinational home appliance retailer, and they are provided a comprehensive data set encompassing product types, sales dates, list. These are all the fields that are there. Okay, so categorized by what we call APAC. APAC is for Asia Pacific, these countries. Okay, so you can see different questions here. The first is that how much in dollars did you sell in each city? Okay, by each home appliance item, how many items were sold by your company, and all of that. So you'll be expected to answer that question. All right. So let's get started. First, we'll now be talking about how to create a pivot table. So come with me as we go. So I'm going to use my notepad just to list as we move in each lessons in this session. So this is the first lesson. Said what? How to create a pivot table. Okay. Now, to create a pivot table in Excel, the first thing you need to do is to select what we call the data range. Let's delve in. The data range. The data range is that section within your spreadsheet that you want to analyze. That's what you must do first. Go and select that range. The way we do it here in practice is this. If we come, this is the range, because it's everywhere. Okay, so come and click on one cell in that range, because the range is normally from year to year. So most times I use my Control Shift left arrow, Control Shift right arrow down. I capture the range. So if you're clicking on a cell in that range, that's perfect. So once you have done that, go to your Insert tab. When you come to Insert tab, the first group is called Tables group. You will see a feature called Pivot Table. That is the feature. Now, if you don't want to use this, you can also use what I call the Quick Analysis Gallery. It's used for this purpose too. So for that, I have to come to the first cell, an intersection between column A and row 1. Then I hit on my Control Shift left arrow and down arrow. Even from my left arrow, taking just the headers, you can see we are having the quick analysis appearing here, the gallery. So I can click on it, and then I navigate to where we're having tables. On tables, you now see pivot table. So if you want to go through this method, it's very fine. But if you do not want to go through this method, you can navigate here, click within the range, come over a cell in the range, come to your insert section here. Then once you are here, you can now click on your pivot table, and you choose this option that says okay. So now let's assume you want to analyze this database. And this database happens to contain all of these products that we are having here. Let's say you want to analyze this database that contains all of these products that we're having here. Okay. Now to create, remember we are looking at how to create a pivot table. So want to analyze this. All right, so I was saying, let's assume we want to analyze a database of items sold by a salesperson. So that's where creating a new pivot table begins. So like I told us, the first thing you will do, your first step, is to click on one of the cells in the data range. This data range from column A1 to J and the row number where it might actually end. So that's step one. So follow me. Open that data set, go to a cell in that data range, click on it. Then step two, like I said, go to your Insert tab. Normally you'll be in your Home tab. So come to Insert tab, come down, you'll see where you have Pivot Table. Click on it. Now, once you click on it here, choose from Table/Range. You'll now notice that there is this box that pops up. So what you have to do here is confirmation. What do you confirm? You come here and confirm that that range which your data you want to analyze is actually captured. So I told us the data range begins from where the data starts on the cell, because cells are where we store data. So A1 is where it begins down to J, column J, row 2340. So we have confirmed it. So here where we have Table/Range, that's what should be there. If it's not there, use this pick arrow, click on it and go and pick it. But it will always come up there to ensure that it's correct. Once you're done with this, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Is it on a new worksheet or existing worksheet? We know what a worksheet means here in Excel. Where we are is data sheet. That's a worksheet of its own. Questions is another worksheet. So you want this to be done within this data sheet or a different worksheet. So it's always best to use new worksheet. So for clarity, so go to new worksheet, then come down and click on this option called OK. Ignore this, add this data to the data model, ignore it. Follow the approach. Come down, click on OK. Once you do that, you can now see that first, you notice it brings us to that new sheet, sheet 1 here. So normally what I would say is right click on it, rename it, right click on that sheet, rename it. So you can call it pivot table. So once this is done, come over here, you will see towards your right that after we have created the pivot table, you can now see that we now have a section called pivot table fields. That's pivot table columns. Fields means columns. So these are the columns from our database that we want to work with. How do you see them? Scroll down. You see it inside there. Can you see store? Where my cursor is. Can you see country? So if you keep coming down, you see region, dates, year, item, salesperson, list price, actual price, discount percentage. These are all the columns from that our database that we want to work with. That's what you have here. So to start creating your pivot table, what you need to do is to drag all these different fields to these areas we have below. You can see these different parts we have below, divided into 4 sections. I will explain them. Just flow with me. Follow the approach. The first part is what we call rows. Your fields, your columns are to be dragged into these 4. First, you need to understand what they are. It is important you know what they are representing and why you need them. The first is what we call filter. In this filter part, this is where you will come and choose the columns by which you would like to filter your data in your pivot table. I come again. For the filter part, it is where you will have to choose the column by which you would like to filter your data in the pivot table. The next is columns by my right. In this columns part, it is where you will have to choose the columns in which you would like to base your pivot table columns upon. In filter, we want to filter our data in the pivot table. In columns, we are not filtering. We are now basing our pivot table columns upon whatever column we bring here. You will see this demonstration practically. If you come down, we have values. Values here just means the column. You come here to choose the column where you want Excel to calculate your required computation. That's what you come to do here under values. Then for rows, this is where you come and select the column which you would like to base your pivot table rows. So rows is opposite of columns, because in columns part, you come here to select the column which you would like to base your pivot table columns upon. But for rows, you come here and select the columns which you would like to base your pivot table rows upon. So you can see that all of these are important. That's why I said to start creating, to begin to create your pivot table, you must drag the different columns here to these different parts that are below. So it's important you do this. So please, let us continue. Now, what we normally do, which is a common practice first that you must know as a beginner here, is by using your pivot table to add values of a particular column based on a condition that appears or the condition that you find in other columns. So for you to perform such tasks where you want to, some values of a particular columns based on a condition that appears in other columns, okay? For you to do this, all you have to do is for you to come here, drag the column that you would like to analyze into this part. So this is what we do. Recall, we said we have a database and we want to analyze items sold by salesperson. So what we are going to do now is for us to come and drag our items. Okay, we have our items, we have our salesperson. So we'll come here and drag, okay, let's say salesperson this way. But if we want to go with items, then we'll come here. We'll take our items, we'll drag it. You can see that I drag it out. Click and drag it. Don't remove your hand from your mouse. Then drop it on your rows area. Can you see it's now there, item? It is now there. If you want to remove it from rows area, you can also drop it on your columns area. So whichever areas you want to use, you can do that. What I've just used to do this, I've just used my cursor to drag it because I want to sum up all of these items to be able to get the total values. Okay, based on a criteria that is on another column. This is an analysis. So if you wanted to do this analysis on columns, then this should go to column. Drag it back to columns and you can see it at the top. But if you want to leave it on your rows, you drag it back to your rows and that's fine. So, but for this to be complete, we also need to drag the values because we want to know the total sales of each item. You can see the number of items we have, how summarized it is, unlike when we have it on our data. On our data, you can see it's complex up to 2,000, you can see. But in your pivot table, it has been summarized here, you can see. So we want to know the total sales by each product. What do? We'll now go back to this part where we have the columns, the pivot table field section. and look for the column where the criteria is. The criteria now is sales, the amount. So which column? Because it's on a different column. So look for it. So if we come down here, if you come down, you can see where we are having actual price. So we are now assuming that actual price is the sales. The sales. So what do? You come and drag actual price and drop it under values. By the time you do that, you can now see where we're having it displayed here, telling us for air conditioner, this is the total, for blender, for ceiling fan, and for others. Can you see it? Now, there are situations we always observe. Situations where, which is common, whenever you are dragging your your value column into the value area, you always find out that it will always be summing it for you. So there are times where you will be asked, maybe they are telling you, we don't want the sum, the total sum. What we want to see is maybe, let's say, we want to see the average. We want to see the total count. Maybe if they are saying air conditioner total sum sold is 1, 2, 2, 4, 2, 3. Now, how many air conditioner was actually sold to arrive at this amount? All you have to do is to change the way these amounts, these values are being computed. So how do you go about that? To go about this, all you have to do is to work towards what we call the value field settings. The value field settings is very important. This was the field we worked on here. This is it. I hope everyone can see it. So you can come here, double click on it, double click on the header, sum of actual price. Once you do that, you can see a new box appears. You can change the name. If you don't want to call it sum of actual price, you can clear this and put any name. Okay, so we can just put sales, whatever you want to put. Then come down here where we have summarize value field by. When you come down here, you will now see those different methods, options you might actually want to use to change the way these values should be computed based on the requirement. So maybe it's count. You select to know how many was actually sold. You use count and then you click on OK. Can you see? It's now telling us that 195 air conditioner was sold. Blender 196 was sold. For microwave 203 was sold. What we have just done, we have just changed the way these values, this data was calculated or computed. So how do you change the way the values or data is calculated or computed? Is by double clicking on that column that contains the value, which is this column that we have dragged. Double click on it, it brings this, then you do that. Take note of it. You can now see what we have now, showing us this. So if you want to take it back, you choose sum, and then you hit OK. That's how to do it. Now, the next thing you need to know how to do is what we call data segmentation. So I've just showed you how to make changes. How to adjust, you can see it's an adjustment, how to adjust the way your data values are displayed or computed or calculated, whichever they ask you in an interview. So next is what we call data segmentation. Using your pivot table. All right, so let's go. So let's go back. Data segmentation. Okay, now we segment our data here in pivot table using two components. First, what we call the rows, and second, what we call the columns. And when we are doing this, we do it gradually. Okay, so what we do is that we'll go and drag those columns we want to segment to the rows area. We'll then drag others to the columns area or columns part. This is what I mean. already we have here our items. Of course, you can change these row labels. You can double click, change it to items. Or you can have proper description. Okay, metadata. So that's items, and these are sum of actual price. Okay, so we want to segment this. Since we already have this here as our items and the actual price that it was sold, so maybe we are told to now analyze to tell us the different countries this product was sold. What do you do? That's segmentation. So you now come and segment this data using that particular column that has that information. So we'll go back to this part, pivot table fields, and look for that column. The column name is move, I think it's country. Yeah, country. You can see it, country. So you drag your country and drop it under your columns. You can now see that that total price amounts we are having is now broken down to different countries. That in Argentina, we sold 1890. In Australia, we sold 1876. In Austria, we have sold 2408. In Brazil, we have sold 1960. In Canada, we have sold 1995. In Chile, we have sold 3066, and so on. And if you go, you can see this is segmentation. Now, this segmentation is cool, but something you also need to do is to perform other complex calculations, which you have to do on the same column. We have done it when I was talking about you being able to change or adjust the way your data values are displayed. So this can also be done. You can also do it over here. So what I'm trying to say is that you can also perform different calculations on top the same column criteria. So on this same column criteria, maybe on one aspect, they want to see the total amounts, which are all here. So it's just like me editing these column labels now. I call it sales by countries. And they want to know, okay, in these countries, how many products were sold to arrive at each of these. That means you're now doing a complex calculation, but within the same, using the same country column to do this. So you can do this. So all you have to do here is to simply go and perform that same step we did in lesson 2 on this session. So this is what I mean. I will just come here, since I want to make that one. I'll come and drag this same country. I'll drag it and drop it. Can you see my cursor? This is the country that we have here. We said we want to show another calculation. So what you will do, you make sure your country is dragged and drop on your columns, which is already there. So just come down, look for the value column, which is actual price. Drag actual price again, drop it inside values area. Once you do that, move your cursor. If you move your cursor here, you'll now find out we now have something here. Ensure that you now have 2, okay, the first and the second. So let this one come up first. Yeah. Okay. So this is Argentina. This is sum of price for Argentina. Now they want to know how many products were sold to arrive at this in Argentina. This is what we now have, because we have dragged actual price the second time and dropped it inside values field, inside values area the second time. So in values area, we are having 2 values appearing. You can see it, give it a name. Sum of actual price 1 and sum of actual price 2. But here, we don't want to keep 2 actual price. So this place will now come. And remember what I told us earlier on, that you can come here, double click. Okay, you can see the show detail showing you all of what you have here already. I believe everyone can see what we are having here, but this is not what we want to do. So what we are just going to do, come to the top here, If you want to use the value feed settings, that's fine. But if you don't want to go through that, double click on the header. It will also bring this box for you. I told us it's called value feed settings. Remember this box. So if you want to right click on that header and choose value feed settings. Or double click on that header. Double click on it 2 times. It brings this box. Choose count. Okay. What do you see? This here, from this part to this part, we can go home and give it a color. This is Argentina. So what it means is total sold. You can name this total sold. Total, maybe you can say total quantity sold. Then this will be total sales amount. Total sales. So in Argentina, you can now merge this to become one. So we can merge it. So it means that in Argentina, this is the total sales amount for each product. And this was the total quantity sold for each product to arrive at this. So for air conditioner of 1890, how many did we sell? 3 was sold to arrive at this. And for blender in Argentina, 135 was what we got. 3 quantity of blender was sold to arrive at this 135. Can you see? So same thing you will do here. You can see immediately we change the value settings to total quantity sold. Australia also picked up that settings. So we can also come here and make this like this. So now this is for Argentina, this is for Australia, total sales we made, total quantity. And we can also compare it. Gives us insights now, knowledge. For example, for our grand total, if we are doing a comparison, maybe the company wants to know between Argentina and Australia, which country do you make more sales of our product? You can see here that we made more sales in Argentina. You can see, and the total quantity sold actually gives us an evidence based on that 54 quantity was sold in Argentina compared to 41 that was sold in Australia. That's insight. I hope we are following. That's insight. So what we have just done is lesson 2. We have just adjusted the way our data values are computed, calculated, or displayed, because by default, it will always be displayed as sum. But you can do other adjustments. If it's average, all you have to do is to come to the header, right-click on it, choose where we have value field settings. It brings this box, and you scroll down and utilize any you might ask to use. If it's maximum, if it's minimum, if it's average, you can also do that and you get it running. You change the custom name to the name you want to use. That's all. You click on OK. Approach. At this point, you have no business with the show values as. That's why I talked about approach. Approach is everything here. So you just have to follow this approach and master it. So what we have just done is a repeat of that very step. Now, let us repeat segmentation step again in a complex way. Recall, by segmentation, I told us that we segmented based on one column, where we said, okay, this data, we want an extra criteria, which is found on a different column. So what did we do? It was country. We dragged country and dropped it on columns. Now, how about a situation or a scenario where you are having more than one column to base your criteria on? Remember when I explained what these four are for? How about a scenario like that? What do? You have to segment. It means what you have to do is to come and segment your data based on another different column by dragging the columns. This time around, you'll not drop it in country because we are basing the data upon this column. So don't bring it as a wrong practice. So bring it under rows area. So for this, we can now go and say, okay, let's look at what we can do quickly. So we can talk about our let's say we want to look at we have region, we have okay, let's say salesperson. Okay. Or since we have stores in these different places, so let's go with a region. So we'll drag our region and drop it under our rows. So you can now see what we have here. Okay. We now have the different regions. Okay. So you can see, in fact, let's remove region so that you can relate with this. So to remove, click on what field you want to remove, drag it out. It is out. Then go and look for the new one here. or you untick it, then put it back here. Okay, so you can see that in Argentina, air conditioner was sold this. In Australia, this. But now, this, what we're having here is for our different stores. So see what it did here. So we have just segmented our stores under our row feed. And the reason is because for air conditioner, this is the total in row 6. This is the entire total. We want to know where this was sold, in what store was it sold. So you can see the total of 1893 was sold in Buenos in Argentina. So if we keep going down, you'll find out that for others, maybe in this other country, Sydney in Australia, that's where this was sold. So there's stores in Sydney. It gives you insight into each store location your product was actually sold. So that's the complex part of segmenting this. So another thing you can do here is to get this done. So once this is done, you then talk about designing your pivot table. So I told us designing your pivot table is different from creating your pivot table. Now, the reason for designing, design is to give you this kind of, awesome visual appearance. Okay, so if you want to give your pivot table an awesome appearance, you must ensure that you design it perfectly. And designing it here, we do it based on what we call the report layout. So I'm going to show you quick on how you can, get this done. All right, so let's make this cool. Let's remove our store. Okay, so we are having this now, yeah? And also we can decide to say, let's also take away our country now that we understand segmentation. So we now have our product, we have their total sales. We also have, let's say, the total quantity, which we have over here. Okay, so, but it's always something you have to do based on what you want to work on. Then you can see what you want to do. All right. So for this tool, we can also say, let's go to our value field and remove also this. So we just have our items and our total sales given to us here. So I hope this makes sense. So understand this. Okay. All right. So how do we design? Because in designing, you must ensure that each of your columns is presented in a different column. So first you click on your pivot table, then look at the top. You will see on your ribbon, I don't know which version of Excel you're using, but you'll find out that there is this part we call the design. Can you see it? Design tab where I went to. Let me start using my annotate pen. I think it's important at this point so that you can see this. So on your tab, go with me with this arrow. Can you see design tab? That's where I clicked on design. Okay. So once you click on it, you now see it brings up several groups. There's this group we call layout. Here my arrow points to now, this group. Okay. So over there is where you do your designing. Okay, your setup. All right. So let's go. So that's the report layout I was talking about. So once you come here, you now see that there are several options. We have subtotals, grand totals, report layout, blank rows. Click on report layout, this one. Click on it. Once you click on it, it brings several options. Explore this third one called tabular form. When you click on tabular form, you can see how everything looks. What this means is that this is now in a tabular form. So I will always tell you to check others. So you go choose show in outline form. Okay, so you can also get all of this being done. Show in compact form. And also use our show in okay, so now what I want you to do, these are the forms we have, but now for a proper design, click on After selecting, going to your design tab, come back to your report layout, click on repeat all item labels. If you click on this, you can also see there are certain ways these changes, are actually done over here for you to see. So let me bring back our region. Okay, so you can see that we're having our items, the total sales by region. Or, okay, since region is, okay, let's go with country back. Let's go back to our country. Okay, so you can see our total sales by countries, and all of that. So with this, we can go back to our report. If we say repeat all item labels, you can see how we have this here. So let's say country is here. Then let's say the, okay, so we can also do this. Report layout, can say compact form, can also say repeat all labels. Let's do this. All right. So for subtotals, okay, what we normally do we can come here and say do not show subtotals. What it means is this. If you look in here for air conditioner for Argentina, normally you may say you want to have it sub. Okay. Let's say show all subtotals. Let me add our region or store. Okay, so if we say our story is not making sense, so let's say let's bring country to our rows, and let's bring our store to our columns. Okay, so we can see that for air conditioner in Argentina, this is the total. So you can also decide to say do not show subtotals. You're not going to have that. Okay, if we say show all subtotals, okay, we can also have our top totals. For example, if you go this way, you will see that for air conditioner, this in this store, else in the different store in Argentina and all of that. Now, if we come, you can see we're having a total here. So if we are coming and saying do not show subtotals, if you check below, okay, if you check below, you find out that for air conditioner, you're not going to have any subtotal. Air conditioner, you can see after air conditioner, we move to blender. There is no total for it to show us the overall total because we turned off that feature. But if I come to subtotals and I say show subtotals, can you see it here in row 41? Air conditioner total, 3,087,179 by each store in each country. But if you don't want this, that's where you come to subtotals and then change it to what? Do not show subtotals, and it takes it away. But if you want subtotals, then you come and say show all subtotals, sorry, at bottom of group. So at each product group, let there be subtotals showing you, what and what have been done. And this is what you can see here. So that's how we, for designing. So you can always, check this out, and you can also change the pivot table styles. There are different styles we have here, which you can also use to enhance all of what you do here. And it's always good you use something that is clear and sharp for you to, base all of this by. It's perfect. All right, so these have now been done. But one other thing we need to do is to format. So let's talk about formatting your pivots, table, columns. So how do you format? Okay, because formatting means to make it be in the way you want it to be. Okay, so here you can format a particular value. All you have to do is just to right click on that column. And then you format your cell the same way we did for A over there. I hope we understand this. For example, let's say for all these amounts now, all these amounts we have in these stores, if you look clearly, in fact, let me remove store now. Now, if you look clearly, these are air conditioner by each country. Air conditioner by each country. If you go down, you'll now see the subtotal and also blender by each country. So this air conditioner supposed to show us a total here. We're not having it here. So it's something you now have to go to your design. You come to your design, then you click on where we have subtotals. So you now say show at bottom so you can actually have all of that displayed as you come down. All right, now what I'm saying now is this for formatting. How do you format your table, your pivot table column? For instance, this amount might be they're telling you it is not in the right format, that there should be a comma sign depending on your currency format. For example, over here in Nigeria, the normal format is that we should have a comma sign, like a separator, where we are having 1,890. I hope you're there. So that's 1,890. So that calls for formatting. So if you wish to format this amount as number, and then maybe you add a separator on it, that's formatting I'm talking about. Now all you have to do is to come right click. Just come right click on this header here. That's the column header. Choose format cells. Once you choose format cells, it's going to bring all this option. You can see all this option. So on this option, choose this one called number. When you do that, it's going to now bring another section. You can see it. So on this section here, tick use 1000 separator. That's for the comma. Once you've done that, you can set up your decimal places, can say 0 or whatever it is, then you say okay. So once this is done, you will now be able to get this done that way. So right here, we're still having it. So what I want you to do here, you can as well decide to say Ctrl Shift down, right click, and then you go to your format cells, come to your number, click on your use 1000 separator, then you click on OK, and then you can see it 1,890. So this decimal that we're having here is because you don't remove it. So if I come here and click format cells, if I remove it, you can see what we have, 1,890. So this is what we mean by formatting your pivot table columns. So it's something that and very important for you to also be able to format, because there are scenarios that calls for that. There are scenarios where you have to be able to do this formatting. So I believe you're following. I believe you're following with all this, because like I told us, the pivot table is a great tool for summarizing and analyzing your data here in Excel. So this being done, we now understand how this works here. Okay, now let's now talk about identifying errors. So how do we identify errors? You know what we mean by those errors, like missing value, so that all this can be can be accurate, can have an accurate and valid data. So what you must know is that here in your pivot table, you can actually identify your errors. Like notable one is those blank cells. Means that if there is a particular cell, there is no data. What if you had that? What will you do? What will you do to be able to do this? So please listen attentively. If, for example, for Argentina, there was no figure. Okay, so for this now, I would like to go back to the original data to go and do this. So let's come here. So let's assume that we are going to filter country. The filter, this is part of data interrogation. So click on the icon for filter. If you don't know how to filter data, be on the cell within the range, go to your data tab, click on your filter. If I take it off, you can see it's out. So if I click, we now have an arrow. So I come here, we use it to interrogate data based on certain filter type. We have text filter because this column contains text. So that's why we use text filters. If you go to this column that contains numeric data, you find out that for that one, we do what we call number filter. So, and I told us that we have two types of data. Yeah, we have what we call alphanumeric data, and we have what we call multimedia data. That the data we work with that is common in practice is alphanumeric. Alpha stands for text, numeric stands for numbers. Okay, that multimedia talks about your images, your videos, your audios, and all those are still data. But the only facts why we focus on this alphanumeric is because majority of the methods already created in data science, majority of the methods created in data science have been designed to help you handle alphanumeric data. So ladies and gentlemen, let's interrogate. We'll come to country, we'll say we're only interested in Argentina, and then we hit on OK. So this is for Argentina. All right. So for Argentina, let's go to the actual price. Let's say this is 0, this 0, this 0. So what we are just going to do is to copy our 0, then we hold our Control Shift, and then we say Control V to be able to paste it. But most times maybe giving you this, okay? Maybe giving you all of this because we did not copy it well. So say copy, Control Shift down, paste with your Control V. So we're assuming that there are missing price. When this data was sent, Argentina was missing. So let's go to any other country. Let's also say this was applicable to Brazil. So take this, Brazil. So same way for Brazil, the actual price was missing. So having 0, copy, Control Shift down, Control V. So it was missing. Okay, so just flow with me. So this being done now, we'll now go back to our pivot table. I'm just giving us an illustration. So we'll refresh so that this will actually appear. So like our actual price now for Brazil, we are assuming that when this data was sent to you, okay, those actual prices for Brazil and for Argentina was omitted. That's the issue of blank. That's an error. You have to identify them. Okay, so one thing is to filter, another thing is to clear your filter. Because if you leave it this way without clearing, whatever analysis you will do will be based on what you filtered. So always remember, come back to that column. Click on clear filter from country because it was country column that the filter was based upon. So once you're done with this, can you see Brazil is having 0 for actual price? And this will affect our data. The integrity of our data is affected. Our data is lacking what we call the principle of completeness. And I told us when we look at metadata as a domain, there is a subdomain called quality metadata, which gives us certain principles we must imbibe upon. For example, we talked about the principle of accuracy. We talked about the principle of consistency. Of course, this is lacking, this is not consistent because consistency is a principle here when we work with data that emphasize on the need for your data to be on an appropriate format, the right format. So this is not the format because it's showing 0. Missing data are not allowed. They have to be dealt with. And that's what we are looking at. So in consistency, this data is not consistent. Completeness is not complete. You can go ahead with all of that. Okay. So this could result from different aspects, especially the domain we call lineage, where we are now looking at the source, where this data is coming from. How original is it? How valid is it? We don't have time for that. So what do? We clear our filter, we go to our pivot table. Now I'm doing this, I'm trying to refresh now, not because not because of the fact that we have it this way. No, it's because I want to do this demonstration so that in case you have data, the first thing you have to do is to also be concerned about identifying those missing values, errors. We don't just assume yet. Do that. When we look at the life cycle, we know it's a key step, data cleaning. You must follow it. So what do we do now? I want to refresh this. Permit me. So I'm going to refresh this. So I'm just going to right click and click refresh. So in refreshing now, what do you notice? You figured out that Argentina is now 0. Brazil is now 0. Now imagine this was a large data set and these missing values were hiding within different sections. How do you treat them? Because you don't have to go ahead with this. That's why I'm now talking about the treatment of missing values. That's identifying errors. So as a data analyst, as a data scientist, you must be able to control the way, these missing values, blanks are presented. There are different ways we do that. You know the F5 method. I've showed you. To get that better, go through our classes, you get it. But using a pivot table, do I need to now go and apply F5? You don't need to do that. All you have to do, come to one of those cells, any cell within your range. When you come, maybe I'm going to, okay, before I say any cell, so that somebody will not say, I went to the cell where we have Argentina. No. I can come to Colombia. Now you can see Colombia is not affected. I don't even know if there are others below, but I can just come here, right click. So step 1, come, right click. When you want to treat your missing values and errors, right click on any cell within your pivot table range. List of options appears. Choose this one called pivot table options. Can you see it? After field settings, before hide field list, pivot table options. Click on it. The moment you click on it, it then brings a box. Drag this box. On this box, you don't have business with name. The name, yes, is pivot table 2. You don't have any business. Come down. You now see that there are several tabs. Printing, you can see printing, you can see total and filters, you can see alt text, display, you can see data. I hope we are following. You can see data. But where you have to come to treat these missing values is to choose layout and format tab. Layout and format. Once you click layout and format, come down. There are options under format group. The option says for error values, show, meaning that for any, now this control, this is how we control errors, data errors. As far as data cleaning is concerned, you're a data error controller as a data scientist. So under the format, you're now setting a rule. It's just like data validation we looked into last time. How you validate data, you set restrictions, we looked at the cholera analysis. We said, okay, maybe there was cholera outbreak in Lagos and we're having a report that is a pressing challenge health-wise. Wanted to make an analysis, research into this. What was the actual cause of it? We decided that, okay, let's build a form. In this form, let's request for certain information from our respondents, but we want to restrict them so they don't go outside the box, providing responses that we actually do not need. What did we do in our data validation? We entered those information. When we entered it, we started, putting it. We asked a question like, how many bottles of drink do you drink? And we said the answer should be 0 to 10. But we human beings, some people can go and put 1,000. So we said, no, let's restrict it. That 1,000 should not be allowed. Let there be error messages, and all of that, capturing it. And for purpose of, guiding them, there also be a warning message, letting them know what they should do. Validation. You can apply that method here. But here, we are talking about controlling your errors. And I said to do that, you come here, right-click on any of the cells. It brings list of options, select pivot table options. It brings this box. On this box, come over to where we have layout and formats. Everyone can see where we have layout and formats. Come to format. So now, error values means these are numeric value. They are not alphas. They are not text. So there are times where it may be that when the data entry specialist was entering the data, she went and entered A1876, A for Apple, A1876 for Australia. It condemns it. That very cell now, that data is inconsistent. That's wrong. It's not complete. Because it means that that data is a text data type. There was an issue we are handling in one of our power BI, for Business Intelligence Analyst class. We're trying to do what we call defining hierarchies and categories for data, whereby we're handling a particular project for a client who owns a phone business, sales of phone in Ikeja. And this client was having a headache on issues. What were the issues? He was not actually getting, a sound report on how the business was actually operating. So hence the need for we to build a dashboard that could actually uncover insight for him so he can understand his business. We asked him questions because you have to ask questions. So when we asked him questions, he told us two major aspects he wants. He wanted us to build a dashboard that will show him sales by brands of his phone products since he has Samsung. He was also dealing on iPhone and Techno. For that, what did we do? We defined hierarchies for him and we built that dashboard. Then the second challenge we had, which relates to what we are doing now, this error, is the issue of categories. He told us that for his products, he always understands better when he sees the amounts. We say, oh, what do you mean? He said he will be happy if we can design a dashboard that shows him products by categories, where we are having high-end products. He told us high-end products, he told us mid-range product, and what he called budget product. Budget and low products. Those are categories. And categorizing data is important because your data must be classified to uncover certain type of insight that we have. And all of this goes in line with requirements of the clients of the organization. So what do we have to do? First, we decided to identify what are the criteria, because in categorizing data, there must be criteria. He has given it to us. What was it? He told us for high-end product, there are products that are sold whose price, whose sales amount is above 100,000. So any product that is above 100,000 is to be categorized as high-end product. We said, okay, sir, how about mid-range? He said mid-range are products that are above 50,000, but below the range of 100,000. That's 50 to 100 mid-range. Then we say, sir, okay, how about that of budget, low budget or low range? He said for low budget, low range, that there are products that are below 50,000. And that was fantastic, But we spent hours handling that issue. Why? Because of an error that occurred in the price column. In the price column, we didn't know that on a particular column, instead of writing the figures as an amount, numeric, alphabet was attached to it and it condemns it. That's why you must not jump the step of data cleaning. I was speaking with a lady the other day who happened to be one of our students, and she said, oh, this cleaning have been stressing her. I said, yes, 60% of the time as a data scientist, analyst, you spend it cleaning your data. And it's important because when you don't clean it, you now be passing through a lot. What you should have done before, you now have to come to it. So imagine this pivot table, if this data was given to us and there are missing value, because you cannot summarize data for presentation to board of a company or management in your company where you work. And during meeting now, they are now seeing 0 for Argentina. Whereas sales took place in that country or in that state or in that brand, if we even bring it to Africa, Nigeria, what will you now say? It means you're not competent, because we know that competency is very important. It's not just to get the job, because what you need to get a job is different from what you need to keep the job. To keep the job, you must be highly competent, and that's what we do here in Miramore. That's what we're after. That's why we have made it mandatory, our policy, that as a student here, before you receive your certificate, your training, attending your training is not a guarantee. No, because you can attend your training and you still don't practice, which is an error. It's uncalled for. So what the criteria we have set for your certificate to be issued to you, you must sit down for exam. It is a 1-hour exam. You must sit for it after your training. You must write the exam. The score is above 80. Anyone who fails it carry over that course again. That's our policy. Because we are not interested in training you to go out there and not to be competent. No. So even if you spend 2 years to do a course program on data analysis, data science is not our business. Our focus, we have the resources on ground, we have the experts, we have everyone. So our focus is on you getting value, because here we'll give you more of what you want. We take our time to teach you, to train you, to be the best you can be. So we noticed that error. Imagine that error affected it. So we had to go back because we did not claim that data was not cleaned. We assumed the data was already in order, not knowing that no. And of course, data tools has a way of identifying errors. I told us data types, the ABC, the numeric, and all of that, date data type, and all of that. In fact, let me show you what I'm talking about, what we later did. I think that's full sales data. To go to our Power BI. It was saved. It was okay. Categories in Power BI. So please come with me. Let me show you this. So this Power BI is an important data tool we use for visual analytics. Okay, that's all about representation. When we looked into the steps, there is the aspect of communicating your insight, your findings in a proper format, because today management of companies are not interested in bulky reports. They want something they can see and, can be able to uncover insights, understand what's actually going on and all of that. And that's why we have these tools. Okay. And there are many things to this. There are many things to this. All right. Okay. So it's coming up. So I just want you to pin your eye to the category, just this little dashboard we just did here. Okay. So look on the canvas. This is the part we call the canvas. All right. So can you see what I was talking about? The end results. We were able to segment this. Okay. We're able to segment this. And we got this actually. Can you see here? Models, price category, grants. You can see what we are talking about. But we're not able to do this price category because of that error. By the end, we corrected the error, refreshed, and we got it. Galaxy happened to be high-end. Brand Samsung, and all of this. We created hierarchy for the brands, but this was where we now categorize classification, because from the original data, a field or column for price category was never part of it. This price category was created. We made use of what we call if statements, because if statements is a statement here that goes in line when you're working with conditions. But the good thing is that if you're using pivot table, you don't need to use all these formulas. Your pivot table does this for you. And that's why we are here. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go and clean that data. All right. So there are different ways to do data cleaning. One important way is control. Control it so it does not happen. Control. So how do you control? I said, yeah, for any time you have values that are not in the right format. That's why we say for error values, let it show you a particular information. Maybe you have values that are displayed this way, that way, let there be a particular information that it will show you. So that's why we always come here and click on what? For error values, show, what should it show you? So let's say show for error value. Okay, so let me tell you now what I mean. Okay, let's go to data so I understand this way. Now let's use Russia. Which country do we have closer here? So Canada. Okay. Let's go to the data here. Let's filter Canada. This is Canada. So actual price, we're going to say for Canada, let's put G54. G54. Then let this be G54. Good. So let's clear filter. Can you see that text and that's an error? So let's come and clear filter from country. Then let's come to our pivot table and then refresh, right? Click on the header, refresh. Now, if you come to Canada, okay, let's go back. Let's filter it again. There's something we did not do. Tick select all Canada. So we're going to do this. Let's assume control this, that this was the money, it was 5-4. Okay. Then we come to country, we clear filter, always clear. Then we'll come back to pivot table here. So come here, refresh. Okay, can you see in Canada, we are having nothing. That's the error. So what I mean by control is that rather than all this happening, be in any field, any if cell, right click, choose pivot table options. So for you to know how to locate it, any cell that has such error value in errors, error in value, let it show us there is error here. Let me speak Nigeria pidgin. Then for empty cells, those cells with missing value, let it show us no data is here. You understand? Good. If you understand Nigeria pidgin, I click OK. So what do you see for Canada? You're now seeing that in your data after you've done this, just scroll down. Anywhere you see, no data here. You know that's what happened. That tells you that there is no data there. For this very one again, this is what you will do. Like I said, locate, right click, choose pivot table options. Then you come here, ensure that your format is ticked. Yeah, for error values show, make sure it is ticked. For empty cells, also make sure something is ticked on it. Can you see it? Make sure something is ticked on it. So we can say, okay, another way we can identify this for any empty cells, let us have 0. Then for where there are error values, maybe we don't need that one. Our focus is on empty cells. You do it, then you click OK. Once you do it, you can see Canada is also empty, so we have 0. Argentina is also, so we have 0. In fact, why Argentina is showing this 0 is because on the data, we did not filter it well. Instead of 0, 0 is even a number. So instead of having 0, what we would have done would have been this. Argentina would have, to say it's missing means there was nothing inside. So it's the same thing as clearing everything. Fine. Then we'll go to, which other one did we do? Brazil. We'll go to Brazil. Missing means there is no data. That means no record was sent. That's missing. So if we come back, we'll clear this, clear filter. We'll go back to pivot table. If you come here, we'll refresh. You now see that it is completely missing, which can result to either is blank or what happened. If it's not blank, then that means it is there was error in the value. But now it's showing 0. So when you now see 0, you now know that it is missing or there is error. Why is it showing 0? It's because of what we did. What did we do? We went to one of the cells, right click. We came to pivot table options and we did a setup here. We said that for any time we have empty cells, let it show us 0. So if we have said anytime we have empty cells, let it show us there is an error here. And we say, okay. You find out that all the empty cells we have, there is an error here. Can you see? Argentina, there's an error here. Brazil, there's an error here. Canada, there's an error here. Can you see what I'm saying? So this is how we control it. This is how we control it. So the next thing we'll now be talking about quickly is what we call filtering. How do you filter? To filter your data, you can see the filter button at the top. So just click on it. You can say, okay, I want to focus on air conditioner alone. Oh, there's nothing bad there. All you have to do is untick all and choose air conditioner. Okay. So filtering is like what we just looked at. So all this now is now air conditioner in a particular country that you have here. You can see all the countries and their air conditioner. Then this is the total, grand total for all sales of air conditioner in this country, just like that. So if you want to do for air conditioner, you want to do for maybe for others, you just have to copy this. Control C, go to the top, come somewhere here, paste. Then when you've pasted, double click on this intersection. On your filter, change this to the other country. Okay. Or maybe this air conditioner for all. So maybe we are looking at products. These products. Based on what we have here, products. So for air conditioner now, we'll tick this, we say blender. So maybe you're asked to compare for blender too. You can now see what we have here. Okay. You can now see our air conditioner versus blender. So you can come down. You find out that when we compare, we made more sales for air conditioner than for blender across the whole countries. So this is filtering data. So you can filter your data using the filter icon. And I told us filtering data means data interrogation. So I'm just going to undo this back to the clean data that we have so that we have everything working fine for us here. So this is how we control this. And also get this running perfectly for us. Okay, so I think it's done. All right, so we have looked into the train data on the pivot table. Okay, so the next thing we are going to, the next lesson I want us to look into is another interesting aspect. Okay, another interesting aspect. Of course, I've showed us, the other method I showed us was how to add, another filter. And I hope you have taken notes of all that because they're actually very, very important for you to do this clearly. Okay, now let's talk about how to add a new data. So maybe you have a new data given to you and you're told to go and add it to what you have here. How do you add it? So we are going to come to our question we're supposed to attend to. So you can see in line 9 that you found out that your financial controller, whom you fired last week for falling asleep during hours, has omitted the following transactions from APAC and EMA from your books. You're told to do what? You're told to add them to the bottom of your data and make sure that the last pivot table includes these rows. It was omitted. See them here. It was omitted. How do you add? That's what we want to look at. So there are certain approaches we follow when you want to add your data to your pivot table. Like I told us, when you have added, you have to refresh so that the new data can also come up. So what I am just doing this so that when you're practicing, you have an idea on how this is done. But what I mean is this. Let's say Nigeria was not here and you're told to include sales for Nigeria. It's like adding. So you go to the raw source and add. That's where you go to. Two ways. You come to this raw source when you want to add and add it. Okay, so I hope we understand it. That's the first method. So if we have something like that, Nigeria now, in this case, you add it in the middle of the data. So we can come to row 6, right click, and click on what? Insert. Did we copy any cell? So you come to any of the rows. Make sure it's at the middle, insert. So we can come here, country name, Nigeria, Africa. Put any dates you want to put. The year, this will be 2017. Product, you can say air conditioner. You can still use Gary. How many price list? 500, 1000, percentage, eat your hungry rabbits. You have this. All right. So now that we have done with this, what we now have to do is to refresh based on these changes we have done here. So you can come to your data here, your pivot table, and refresh. So you can come to the top, right click, and do what? Refresh. Now that we refresh, we still do not have country, Nigeria, appearing here. So let's go down and check. So if you come down here, you can see Nigeria is still not here. And that brings us to sorting data. You can actually sort your data. How do you sort? Maybe you want to sort it alphabetically. You can do that. How do you sort your data in your pivot table? Click on the filter arrow. You'll see sort A to Z or Z to A. If I choose sort Z to A, you can see it. It shows from Vietnam down. So if I want to identify a country by alphabet, you can now see Nigeria is there. Nigeria, how much? 1,000. So we have solved two things now. We have added a data that was omitted, and we have also done what? Sorted it to identify it on time, Nigeria. This is one way we do it. So when you're adding that way, it must be at the middle. So like this question now, if I want to add this, it has to be at the middle. I have to insert it in between. In between. So that's one way we do that. But if you don't want to use that method, it is fine. Okay? It is fine. If you don't want to use that method, like I said, it is fine. Another method you can use is this. You can add it, because if you look at the top here, to go to our pivot table, you will see, if you come to pivot table analyze, there's a particular group called data group. I don't know if you can see it. Let me use my annotate pen. Can you see this area I circled? Data group. So we use this change data source to add. Then we use this refresh to refresh. So whichever method that works for you, fine. If you don't want to use the other method, fine. But if you are using this method, okay, like we are told here, that it should be added. In fact, if you look at the question says that this should be added at the bottom. Look at it. It says add them to the bottom of your data. That means the end of this range, the end of the range. So whenever you want to add a new data to your pivot table that will be added or included at the end of the data range, all you need to do is to use what we call the updates. So you come to pivot table analyze tab at the ribbon and use pivot table updates. You can see it there. Data group, change data source, we call it pivot table updates. It helps us update it. Pivot table update. Because we want to update the source data, the range of the source data. So how do we do it? We'll come here, we'll click on change data source. You can see where we have change data source. We now go back. But before that, this is what we mean. We are told to add it at the bottom. So I will go to the question where it is provided here. This is like the data, extra data that was omitted. I will now copy it like this. Control C. Then I'll now come to the data, original data. I say Control End. Here. I now come, see the end. Control End brought me down. It ended at 2341. So this is how I'll now paste. So I've added it now. So the header, I will remove it. Right click, select that row, delete. So I've added. So that means, what it now means is, whatever I have here now is of no use because updates have been made. So I've added it at the bottom. I gave us two methods. Either you add it at the bottom or you add it at the middle. If you add it at the middle, after adding it, if you have added it at the middle, after you've added it, you do not need to stress yourself. Okay? The refreshing, just come to the up here, the header here, and refresh. But for adding it at the bottom, those plenty data, using the other method from pivot table analyze, what you have to do is to, since you have changed it, you have added it, we have already added it here at the bottom. It was never there. So it means this is not complete, going against the principle of completeness. So what we now need to do is to come to pivot table analyze, data group, click on what? Refresh. And click on what? Refresh all. Can you see it? Once you have now done refresh all, you now find out that immediately all those data have been added. Refresh all has been added. Saves you time. So if you go to your data now, the newly added was Cape Town. So if we now come to Cape Town is there, Tel Aviv is there, Istanbul is there. So if we come here, okay, if we say let's sort, now sorting helps you here, it's already sorted. So if we say let's look for, okay, Cape Town is letter C. So we have to change our sorting. That was why I talked about sorting. So you come to the items at the top, you click on A to Z. So you can now check, do we have Cape Town? You have to check to ensure that you have Cape Town. All right. So, but now there's something we have not done. And this is why a lot of times there are issues. There are issues. You must be careful because we checked Cape Town. Cape Town is not here. It's supposed to be here. It means that data have not been updated because we missed the step. What did we miss? Let's go to the original data. First, consistency. This data is not consistent. They are not matching. It's going against the matching principle. This is the country called Cape Town. Yeah. These countries, these stores. So yeah, store, but something is wrong here. You can see we ignored column A. Stores are supposed to be at column A. We ignored it. We went and started from column B. That's why it's not appearing because it doesn't match. Okay, take for example dates. We are having dates and we are having the region for the newly added. How will this work? That's why oftentimes you now see data scientists and analysts calling, oh, the thing did not work, this, that. No, I will always tell them, go again. Have you gone again? Go and check. Calm down. There is something you have done wrong. You can imagine. Most students will now start raising complaints, it did not work. No, sometimes take a break, just do a little exercise or take a coffee or a drink and you visit it again. Always go again. And see, instead of panicking, can you see the error we have made? So what do we do here? I just come say Control Shift down, left, cut. I come up here and say Control V. Have I not arranged this? So you now still go through it again. Okay, initially we didn't have this column called ye. We extracted it. So now we can say Control Shift again, down, left, cut. Then we'll come over here, say Control V. Then for the ye, we hit on our angry rabbit and it vomits it. And that's good to go now. Okay. So once we have this, always Control S to save. Then come back to your pivot table. Go and update. How do you update? Go to your pivot table, analyze. Click on change data source. Change data source. Select it. It brings this box. On this box, you're going to select the range. Ensure it shows the new range. So I have to go down and check. Make sure it shows it. That's why I talk of picking it rather. Click on the picker. You'll now be the one to go and pick it. You click on the first cell, then Control Shift down. You go like this and left. Can you see that we have picked it? Perfect. While picking it, I noticed an error. For Nigeria, city was not shown. So I have to go and correct that. It didn't show us the store location. So let's go to our data. Nigeria, let's say the store location is in Lagos. All right. So now let's go and update this. So we'll go to our pivot table. We come to our pivot table analyze. We click on change data source, change data source. So we say, is it 2341 it ends? So we'll come and go down. No, you can see the present peaked range ends at 2341 row. Whereas that's wrong. It should be 2353. Can you see another error? Which would have led to incomplete analysis from you. You now go and do a presentation. That's why I said the end goal of these things is to be able to transform raw data into meaningful information, insights, extract knowledge. Knowledge that is not complete is a waste of time because this end goal is to be used for decision making. Company will now end up making wrong decision. Maybe they will say, oh, UK is not good at all. We are shutting down. We are leaving. Okay, we are leaving Nigeria. We are leaving Nigeria. We are leaving Nigeria. We are not investing in Nigeria again. We are leaving UK. We are leaving South Africa. Not knowing that in the report that was made, certain data was not part of it, and maybe it was that country. That's why they are now saying based on what they are, because it's what they figures. That's what they work with, you know. So you have this cost for accuracy. So what do you do here? Use your pick tool. Rather, you can come here and remove it and look at the number, say 353. It will extend. But if you don't want to go with that, instead, use your pick tool. Go and pick it from the beginning. Yeah. Click. Yeah. Control Shift down and Control Shift left. You have taken it. Then you go back, click on the arrow, go back and say OK. So we have taken it. So once you have now taken it, remember it's Cape Town. What do you now do? You come to refresh and say refresh all. So you are now expecting this to be refreshed. So I hope that this is done. So this is how, you know, you get this done. This is how you get this done. So I don't know if we have done this. Okay. So we can also sort this Z to A. And we can also sort this A to Z, you know, to be sure that we have all our available data here, for us. So this, that. So let me go back and list it. So we have talked about sorting. And we have also talked about the aspect of how to add the aspect of how to add new data into your pivot table and to update your data. Okay, so number 10 lesson. Number 10, so we'll say number 10. So for our number 10 lesson, what we are going to look into now is on, for round up, creating what we call pivot charts. So how to create a pivot chart. So let's look into that. So if you go through the assignment, which you must do, you can see where we are told to create a pie chart showing the amount of sales per store in USA. I mean, you're not focusing, that's a criteria you're to follow. Okay, so you must know this as a data scientist, analyst, that you can add charts to your pivot tables, or you can create charts on your pivot tables. How do we do that? The first is to go and click on the pivot table data range. Then go to the data tabs at the top. Come up here, the ribbon. You see a tab here. You can come here, we call pivot table analyze. When you come to pivot table analyze, I don't know if you're here, pivot table analyze. Can you see a group called tools group? On tools group, you will see pivot charts. Click on it. Let me use the annotate pen so you don't say you didn't see this. Okay, can you see that? Right. So you come over to tools group after clicking on pivot table analyze, whether it is called analyze tab on yours, it's fine. So come there, click on pivot charts. Now it brings us list of charts. What you have to do is to select a particular cell in your pivot table range before you come and do what you have just done now. So before going to click on pivot chart, select a particular cell first before you come here. So we selected a particular cell. Then we can now come here. So once you come here, okay, once you come here, you don't have to select the type of chart you want to use. This is based on when we are looking at doing this chart. We say pie charts now in this case. So let's look for pie. This pie. This pie chart. So now come and click OK. So this pie chart. So if we are to go with that assignment question that says we should create a pie chart showing amount of sales per store in US, What it means is that we now have to filter this country. Can you see the filter icon? We'll come and click on it here and select all and choose US. So select inside the search bar here, type US, USA. So I'm still on tick and choose USA and say OK. So this is it. But now it's still taking us to all products. But what we want to look at is the entire product in where? US. So what it means now is this. We'll now go to our areas and remove items, because we're not looking at items, you're looking at the stores in US and their sales. So instead of having item here in this as where we had items, so we're going to go there, the row, we'll drag item out. So this is for the country. This is in US, see the overall sales we made in US, 90,192, maybe in million. Now come and drag store. So if you don't want to drag store into there, you can tick on it. So you can now see this now shows us our total sales, because the values area, we still have total sales here. So it now shows us the total sales we have made in the US. This is it, using a pie chart. Each color represents Chicago, Austin, Kansas, Los Angeles. You can see. So these are different. So you can also right click on this to say, oh, why don't I edit the chart type? You can come, click on chart type, you change it to a bar. The bar is what you want to use. You click on your OK. You can see the bars and each. So you also right click on this, you change chart type. You can also use a line. You can also say OK. So, but you need to follow certain principles. Okay, there are principles that guides your when you're visualizing this to build a dashboard. So you can see the different stores we have all around. You can see the countries. But what we are told to do is that we should use the chart type called the pie chart and to visualize for only stores in USA. And we have it here. We have it here. So you can also utilize the chart elements to add what we call data labels. So data labels is important so that you have the amount of the sales appearing at each slice. So the pie chart is a visual tool we use to visualize data by using what we call slice. So you can come here, click on this plus button here. We call it chart elements. It now shows you all of this. You now click data labels. So it shows you the amounts made at each area. Then you can also make certain changes to your legends. Maybe you want all of this Chicago, the names to appear at the top. You can move it like this, and you can see each value is this way. So this is pivot chart. So you can do pivot chart like this. So I'm expecting everyone to do this. Okay, you can also do this perfectly. So if you want to visualize this perfectly, I can come down, create a new worksheet, go to my view, click on untick grid line to remove the grid lines. Then I will take over here from A up to this way. Then I can take one downward. Okay. So then I'll go to my pivot table. I cut out this, bring it over here, and paste it here. Then I also expand this way now. Okay, so you can see what we're having here. All right. So. Okay. So we can also come double click on it, come to the border. You can also come and edit it. You click on filter border. Instead of automatic, you select a color. Use purple for it. All right. So what I did was to double click on it. It brought, let me go back. I want to change the background. So I double clicked. It brought the format chart area. I go with filter. Then I come down and select the column I want to use. So I can say, let me use something like this. Okay. Or I can change the color to, let's say I'm changing this color to a pure yellow like this. All right. I want to use pattern fill, whatever way. Maybe I have a picture I want to insert. I can also picture and go and insert the picture. All right. So whatever way I'm done, I can also drag the transparency. Maybe let it not be too transparent, something like this. Okay, beautiful. So I can do this and all that. Then I close this. Okay. So coming back here, I can also close this. So you can see what we have here. So I would also come and put it here. So this is our sales amount title. So I want to put, so here we have total sales. Let's say is our total sales by all of these. Okay. So this is a pie chart for our total sales by a particular store, and the stores are by country, which is United States. So if we say we want our stores in a particular country like Australia or Argentina, I will come, select all, unselect all, then I'll select Argentina and say okay. So you can see for Argentina, it was just one store in Buenos Aires. So if I say, okay, how about in Nigeria? I can select all, unselect all. I select Nigeria, and I say, okay. So it's only in Lagos, we sold 1,000. So I can also come here and say, okay, select all, China. So this was China and Lagos, because Lagos is also, Nigeria is also selected. So you have to untick it here, okay? So that you know that, yes. So say cancel, come again, select all and select all. So once for only China. All right, so this is in China, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Guangzhou. So you can see the total sales made in this very, what we call it, this very country. You can see it. So I'll be expecting you all to do this. And when you're done with it, for those who will watch and practice, you can hit me up through a mail on info@miramore.com.ng. Something creative you've done, just hit me a mail, send your work to info@miramore.com.ng, and want to see what you can do. So the plus sign is here for you to expand this. The minus sign is here for you to reduce this. So if you want to expand, you can expand using your plus sign, and you can see the wonderful stuff we have here for our total sales by store, and you just be working based on this. So lastly, before we round up this session, we'll be looking at what we call what makes this more interesting, because assume, you're asked that these sales should be displayed in a way whereby they can have more insight into the year. How much did they make per year in each store in China? You understand? Imagine, okay, now in China, overall, this is overall. We are told that 9957 in Guangzhou, 10641 in the blue slides is for Guangzhou. Shanghai is ash. Shanghai is orange. Shenzhen is ash. And they said they want to know more deeper insight into how much was actually made for each year or maybe each month. What do you do? That's what we look at in just 1 minute. We'll now talk about you adding what we call a slicer. So how to add, because that's what you use for that. So how to add slicers, and also add another we call timelines. Timelines, I use this a lot to your pivot table to uncover this insight. So first, how do you add your slicers? To add your slicers here, the first thing you are going to do is to go back to that pivot table chart analyze. This is it. So we click on this chart. We'll now go to pivot table chart analyze tab at the ribbon. When you come there, there's a group called filter group. Permit me to use my annotate pen. See filter group here. Can you see it? So on this filter group here, this is something I want you to take note of. It's very important. So on your filter group, come click on insert slicer. Make sure you've selected the chart before you go and click on pivot chart analyze tab at the ribbon. Then click on insert slicer. When you do it, you notice what? A box pops up showing you all options. Now it's asking you, what do you want to use as your slicer? Remember the dates we had before and the year. If you want to focus on the year, because we have extracted year, you can go with year. But I would say use dates because based on hierarchy, slicer will slice it. So choose dates and then hit OK. The moment you do that, you can now have it here, showing you all the dates. So if they want to know on the 3rd of January 2024, how much did they sell across these stores? Just keep your slicer here. Keep your slicer here. So how much did they sell on that date? You come here. You just click on 3rd. On the 3rd, nothing was sold. Okay, on the 3rd, we had sales on the 3rd in Shenzhen. 235 was sold in Shenzhen only. On the 6th, the next day sales was made. Guangzhou, 123. On the 13th, 27. On the 16th, you can see it. Can you see it? So you can also filter your slicer because you can have many slicers at the same time. So I can come here, play filter. This is everything now. This was how it was based on the dates. Everything. So this is how we insert slicer. This is how we insert slicer. So you can see it here. So you can come here, click on this option here, multi-select to select all. You can use this to untick. Now, because we have already done our year, okay, because we have already done our year, what we can do, if you don't want to use this as a slicer, you can say remove dates, come back, we'll go to our pivot table chart analyze, we'll click on our insert slicer, we say yeah. Now you can add multiple slicer. For example, while we are slicing by year, you can say salesperson also. Maybe we want to know what each salesperson has sold. So say okay. So that means we now have 2 slicer. Can bring this one here. Can bring this other one here. So you can see the different years. So how much did we sell across all the stores in the year 2014? Go and choose 2014. And see it breaks down. Gives you an insight that in Guangzhou, we made more in 2014 compared to Shanghai store and Shenzhen store. If you want to know among the whole stores, which year in 2015, which store got higher since 2014? In 2014, yeah, you can see it that Shenzhen, we sold 4475 in Shenzhen in 2014. What about in 2015? You click 215. In 2015, the bigger the, now one good thing about pie charts is that how you interpret. All right, so you can see that we have just added multiple slicer for salesperson, one for salesperson, the other for you. So what it means is that your slicer, you can add more than one slicer, depending on the kind of insight you want to uncover. So if we want to know, now this one we are doing now, we said for year 2015, for this store, so you can change your stores by your country. Each country has stores. So once you change, you go and filter, that's a data interrogation, interrogate the country filter. You select which country, you know, it shows you the different breakdown of sales for those stores like this. So you follow the slicer, color, and all that. So you can also edit each of these to actually increase the shape. And that way you can do it is through your legends. You come to your legend here, you click on your legends. Instead of using top, come to more options. Okay. When you come to more options, you can also see it here. So you can also see it here. So you come to text options. Text options is something you can now change the color. It's like it's not looking sharp. So you can use a color that can, yellow is out of it. Yellow is out of it. This green. Okay, green is fine. So you can. And don't forget the principle of uniformity. Make sure your coloring is in line with the organization color. Okay, so you now come down to this. So you come here, you can also make some changes, to bolding it and all of that. So you can come here also, This is the direction. So you come down. You can also do other changes. Maybe you want it to be rotated vertically and all of that. So you can do that. All right. So what I'm trying to say in essence is once you're done with this, if you want to bring it to the left, you can see it at the left. So if this will make more sense to you, you can expand this. So you can also do this. Then you can also come here, ignore this effect, fill and line. You can also fill in line between them. So you can use a purple, okay, to do this, depending on this, so that it can be sharper. All right, so purple is not too clean, can go with blue. Then if we are going with this, it has to be something visible, okay? So we can use our black. The black can go like this. Okay, can say white, can say whatever you might want to use is fine. But just understand the scenario where you have to do that, or you can go with automatic, which is white. But I would say still on that, just picture out something that could be transparent and clear enough. Okay, so better still come back here to text options. And for the color, you can use a different color, maybe use white, or you use a different color, blue. Instead, then we come down solid line, all right, to make it bold. Okay, so this is Guangzhou, China, this Shanghai for red, and this for legend. So we say 215, we've been able to uncover an insight in 215. So always expand this. Okay. So we have this comparison done across 5 years. It's a 5-year comparison, actually. 214, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay. So for salesperson, you can see the salesperson. So same, you go with 216, gives you insight. Wow. Wow. So it was telling us that Shanghai, China got the highest in 216, and this could lead to many decisions. Now I want to know out of this, what did Abulemos sell? To know who are those actually active staffs we have for our marketing team. So you open Amos. Amos sold 362 out of the entire sales for that year. Barbara, Caroline, 138, Gary Shaw, 29, and in Shenzhen. Glenn's Raymond, Glenn's, this can lead to more and more and more. Do you understand? Okay. So why this have been done? Like I said, lastly, because we are talking about affecting your visual analytics here using your pivot chart. So lastly, you now have to understand what we call timelines. Because why slicers are perfect, timelines is awesome. Okay, most especially we use timelines when we are dealing with that column that contains your dates. Because when we use dates here, when we filter this out and said, okay, we want to use dates for our slicer, it was actually not making sense, So what if you want to use dates perfectly? Then you use what we call timeline. Mostly for this year now, we can create a timeline for it. So how do you handle timeline? Timeline is awesome for dates. Awesome. Oh my goodness. Awesome. Awesome. You will say, how? What do I mean? Okay, let me show you something. All right. Now, let me clear filter for you. In fact, let's assume we don't need this year that we extracted right from time, And for salesperson, let's also pull it out. So I'll select the chart. I'll then go to my pivot chart analyze and come to filter group. When I come to filter group, I want to insert a timeline of the slicer so that my dates can be addressed professionally. So I'll click on insert timeline. Automatically, it pictures out dates because it's meant for dates. So that it can break down your dates to different hierarchy level. But when we talk about defining hierarchies, timeline is suite for dates, data type. Okay, it breaks it down. Watch, I tick on it, dates, and then I hit OK. Okay, I hit OK. When I do that, timeline, wonderful, timeline. Can you see what I'm saying? Timeline. This is a timeline. Okay, this is a timeline giving you, wow, awesome. Now, take notes. I can expand this way. I'll show you something now. Look towards where we have inside the timeline. Can you see when I click on months? Can you see? Can you see what's going on there? It breaks it down into different hierarchies. Years, quarters, months, and days. Can you see? So if I want to know the years, I just click years. And it shows me the years, 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Now, what if I'm told, please, for China, can we see our reports of sales across all our 3 stores in China for 2017? I'll just go and click 2017. This is it. In 2017, which store gave us highest? Shanghai. You can see the bigger the slice. Oh, wow. 218. I go to 218 timeline. How about they say, okay, in 2018, can we see the monthly sales reports for each stores in China? I'll go up here, click on where we have the tab for year. You can see 2018 is here. So I come to months. Okay, quarter. You want to know for each quarter. I come to quarter, click on quarter. So for quarter 1, see what we made. Quarter 1, Shanghai, China 1 in quarter 1. That's the highest. Quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 for 2017 compared to 2018. This quarter for 2018. This one, you can see it. You can see it. Also, you can also check it out for months. For the month of February in 2018, see what we sold. That means in the other store there was no sales in Guangzhou. You now have to call the manager. Why? What happened? You found out that there was no sales. Many factors will now arise. You now have to attend to it. Can you see it? So, ladies and gentlemen, this will be calling it a day. They will be calling it a day because I love you all and I want you to, understand this perfectly. So we'll be calling it a day here. This where we'll be rounding up. So please check it out. Explore all of this, do all of this, and a good way. I've provided a question here. I want you to solve 10 questions. Go through them, practice. You can see it here, scenario where we are told that you're a data analyst, blah, blah, blah. Okay, look at it. So first, how much in dollars did you sell or was sold in each city? 2, per each home appliance item, how many items were sold by your company? 3, create a table that shows a breakdown of total sales from each of items sold and the region each item was sold. Create a table that shows a breakdown of total revenue from each item sold. That should not be difficult. Based on your last pivot table, apply filter on this. Should not be difficult. Create a report detailing sales by region in following format. Okay. So all of this should not be difficult for you to do. Add a slicer, create a pie chart. Okay. So this is something I want you to do. So ladies and gentlemen, we call it off here. And these are pivot charts. So do yours better. Don't mind how mine is looking. Do yours better so you can get the best. But I love the timeline so much because with timeline, it uncovers a lot of insights for me that I can navigate to different years, And like I said, while timeline is running, you can go also to your pivot chart analyze and add what we call slicer. When you come here, you can now say, okay, why don't I slice this by salesperson or item? You can add many slicers. This is a slicer for salesperson. You can add another slicer. You can duplicate it using Ctrl D. So this becomes another slicer. So you can change this or you just clear this. So also go to this, select pivot chart analyze, insert another slicer for our salesperson or for item. Okay. You can tick a lot of them and just keep it going. So these are slicers for inventory. So now the good thing about slicing multiple is this. Let me show you why it's interesting. But there is an interaction that now goes on. Okay, there's an interaction that goes on here. Don't mind how this is scattered. I'm using it to teach you. Okay, so the interaction is that we said we want to know our sales for 2019. There was nothing. In 2018, you can see And 219 means maybe operation have been halted in China, so there was none. In 218, in each stores, look at what we made. Now look at the product that was sold. Oven, toaster, and vacuum. If you want to know which product was sold in Shenzhen, click on it. You can see the interaction also for some. So that's why we have filter connections. Still on these charts, you can also see the different filter connections between dates. So you want to connect it, maybe you want to connect it between dates, item, and salesperson. It's fine. Okay. So if, of course, you can see that for year 218, Alistair Mills, Raymond, Miramore were these are the only three staffs who sold items in these three stores. And these were the items they sold because of the filter connection that exists that causes that interactivity between them. So if we go to 217 now, you won't see it will change now. Take note, here is Alistair Mills, here is Oven. Now let's go 217. You can see that for 218, which was this, you can see 131839. Okay, now if we now come over to say, okay, we want to view for certain products, maybe our coffee green, it was not sold. These items have not been sold. So oven still remains what was sold. So that's why when we come to 217, it was still these persons. But 217 have changed, telling us the people who sold are who? Two stores only, still oven, toaster, vacuum. But now it's not Alistair Mills, it's not Fatima James. Same way you go to 216, the interactivity occurs. 216 we are not having. So we'll go to 215, Fatima James and others. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where we'll come to an end. So thank you for joining. I love you and I want you to go through this practice and also don't forget to do this exercise as it will help you uncover insights. You know how to analyze data proficiently using Excel. If you have learned Excel before and cannot use the pivot table, then you did not learn Excel. Thank you once again. My name is Williams. Good to have you.